It's Monday, the 18th of November, 2024. Welcome to the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed, where we give you the top 5 business stories you need to know in just 5 minutes. I'm Michael Thompson, and good morning, Sean Aylmer.
Good morning, Michael.
Sean, we have 5 big stories to get through today in just 5 minutes, so we better get going. Story number 1, Prime Minister Anthony Albanese has used his final speech at a meeting of APEC leaders to push for climate change action and further cutting of emissions, and he's also called for nations to embrace clean energy.
He said the tenets that you mentioned there, Michael, are central for Asia-Pacific countries to build new sources of inclusive growth and lasting prosperity. Speaking in Lima, Peru, ahead of flying to Rio de Janeiro for the G20 summit, Mr. Albanese said the global move to net zero represents the biggest economic shift since the Industrial Revolution. I'm quoting him here. Making the move to more solar, wind and green hydrogen is essential for us to deal with the threat that climate change poses to our environment, our farmers, our forests, our oceans and rivers, and our future food security. It came ahead of a final APEC leaders statement. Now, that statement failed to elevate Russia's invasion of Ukraine and conflict in the Middle East as an APEC priority, but did push the free trade agenda. Signatories to that statement, apart from Mr. Albanese, included US President Joe Biden and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. All of them endorsed a rules-based multilateral trading system. In Lima, there was a great photo shoot of Joe Biden and Xi Jinping shaking hands. I think the G Summit meeting, which starts tonight, will probably deal more with the conflicts that APEC didn't deal with. But in all this, the shadow of Donald Trump is looming large.
Just quickly, you mentioned the Chinese leader Xi Jinping and US President Joe Biden. And there's some kind of positive news on the relationship between the two countries. But of course, this doesn't involve Donald Trump just yet.
Yeah, so speaking at the start of what's expected to be their final meeting before Trump takes over, Xi told Biden that the US and China should strive for peaceful coexistence over the longer term. According to Bloomberg, Biden in response said that the two countries should be very proud of the progress between the two sides.
All right, moving on to story number 2 now. Sean, we are in peak auction season across the nation, with last week being the second busiest of 2024. The preliminary clearance rate, that is a hard word to say.
Yep,
I don't think I've ever made that mistake before, and you've just been waiting for me to slip up. The preliminary clearance rate came in at 64.1%, the third lowest week of the year.
2,900 auctions. Melbourne came in at 64.9%, about normal. Sydney was 63.4%. That is the second lowest preliminary clearance rate of the year. Brisbane, 56.3%, Adelaide, 70.7%, and the ACT, 66%. More supply in the market is pushing down clearance rate. The latest price figures suggest Sydney, Melbourne, Hobart, Canberra and Darwin prices are flat at best, maybe going backwards. Adelaide, Perth, Brisbane still growing, but not as fast as they were. Of course, some of the major economists around town now think we won't get a rate cut until May next year.
Story number 3, late last week, a bunch of fund managers gathered in South Australia and pitched some of their best stock picks at Son's Hearts and Minds conference.
Glastonbury for fundies, I think, of a bunch of performers giving their best. Who's who of investment banking? I wasn't there, but the Fin Review was, so I'm stealing from them. IFM Investors' Ricky Bannon, she reckons that raw corporate travel management is her pick for 2025. It's down 30% this year. She said the travel sector is now stabilising. Elliston Capital's Chris Cortis picked Perpetual. JB Hambro Samir Mehta picked Tencent Music, which is a Chinese streaming service. Another couple of interesting ones. North Cape's Capital Fleur Wright. She suggests Estee Lauder was the one to go. It has been hammered, Estee Lauder, down 55% this year. Maybe it'll bounce back. And Antipodes Partners, Vihari Ross picked Airbus, the manufacturer.
And of course, we're not an investment podcast, and you should seek professional advice before making investment decisions. Story number 4, Sean. Wagyu beef is falling from favour as the cost of living crisis hits the beef sector. There's a lot at stake here.
Oh, I like that. Well done. Queensland-based agribusiness Australian Agricultural Company, AACO, one of the biggest beef producers in the country. More than 30% drop in profit for the 6 months to the end of September. Basically, Wagyu prices are down about 17%, getting hit by lower demand due to cost of living pressures plus higher input costs. Fascinating company, AACO, 200 years old this year, began as an exporter of wool to the United Kingdom. Vast portfolios of stations, 6.5 million hectares. It's actually 1% of Australia's landmass. Also more than 50% owned by British billionaire Jay Lewis, famous this year at least, for pleading guilty to insider trading charges in the US.
Last one, story number 5. Disney, Sean, is showing some signs of bouncing back from a very tough period thanks to growing streaming profits and the performance of Deadpool and Wolverine.
Yeah, but earnings were up 39% during the September quarter. Share price jumped as a result. The two big movies, Deadpool and Wolverine. Can't say I've seen it. You have. You're a fan. Inside Out 2. Haven't seen that one? You have. You're a fan. Basically, the streaming services, Disney Plus, ESPN Plus, and Hulu, are doing pretty well. Upcoming holiday season, Moana 2 and Mufasa the Lion King, they're the two big ones Disney are banking on. The negative for Disney recently has been the experiences division, theme parks and cruises. Well, US theme parks are picking up, not so much Paris and Shanghai, but they're doubling down on the cruises, launching 2 new cruise ships next year.
All right, there we go. The top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
It is Monday, the 18th of November, 2024. Remember to hit follow on the podcast. And if 5 minutes just isn't enough, you can find our longer daily show called Fear and Greed, wherever you listen to podcasts. I'm Michael Thompson, and that was the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. Have a great day.